Okay, maybe we should check in chat.
Hey, everybody. I think everyone can see us now. We had a little bit of a false start, but I think we're back. And I hope that everybody enjoyed that last talk by Yagma on the SEO content strategy fundamentals. I'm sure many of you are thinking about how to start implementing some of those strategies yourself. But before you run off and do that, it's extremely important that you audit your site before starting that kind of work. And if you already have a site with an ongoing SEO and content strategy underway, then some advanced auditing techniques that we'll hear about in this next talk can help you uncover many of the optimization ideas and content ideas that can accelerate your business. So that's precisely what we'll be talking about in this next exciting installment. And as such, it's my pleasure to introduce to you our fantastic speaker, Krzysztof Marzec. Krzysztof, welcome.
Hi, nice to meet you.
So a bit about Krzysztof. He runs a large agency in Poland with over 300 clients called Deva Group, where they specialize in SEO and SEM for the last 22 years. Krzysztof is also recognized as one of the top SEO educators in Poland, where he lectures at Jagiellonian University, AGH University of Science and Tech, and the Tichenor European University. He's also the founder and organizer of SEM KRK Barcamp, which gets up to 500 participants of the SEM industry every year. So if you are in Poland, I highly recommend you seek some of those things out and go and see him in person. He's also a regular speaker at other conferences, and actually at the largest Polish conference recently, he just won first place in SEO and SEM. So that is a lot of SEO experience in one person, in one guy. So we're very blessed to have him sharing his insights today with us. Krzysztof, the floor is yours. We're all looking forward very much to your talk.
Great. Thank you for a great introduction. Now the stakes are high. So I will start with sharing my screen and making sure everything is okay. Good, and I need my slides, and I think we can start right now.
Yep.
So my talk will be about how to use Google to audit your site. And of course, we have crawlers and other tools. I just want to make sure that you know that you can simply use Google to go further, like make this tech optimization much, much better with just Google and, of course, another tools. But to be sure that your content strategy, that your link building will work for you perfectly, you have to be sure that your site is prepared and ready. So we'll cover that in this talk. And to start, in Poland we say dzień dobry, good morning, and I hope you have fun on this conference. I was here last year. I really enjoyed some talks, and I will stay later to listen some of them, because in SEO and SEM, it's so good that we always can learn and improve our techniques. And for example, today I found some new strategies that I will test for sure. But let me start. Every hero has a great origin story, and you need an origin story for me to remember me correctly, right? But in this story, I'm the villain, because when I started doing SEO back in 2005, before I did some web development and I make some pages, and my friend told me that he hired a lot of people in my study group to go and manually put links to his sites. Please don't ask me what kind of sites he promoted in SEO back then, but they did it manually. And I told him, why you waste your money? You can make some engine to make this really, really fast and automated. And he said, it's not possible to automate link building. And he hired them to make this manually because their systems are like not so simple to automate, right? So I went home and I used my tool, Tasker. This is simple software. It was easily available back then. And I turned it off because it was fishing for my game. I played Tibia back then, and it was fishing in this game. And I changed it to put my clients, the pages I did recently, to guest books, like some of them. I harvested few thousands of them, and I put in this Tasker and put it on and left for a bike ride. And it was working quite nice. And I was so happy that, wow, I automated just in few hours of work. And when I came back after my bike ride, I saw this. After 6 hours being outside home, I put my links in more than 10,000 of these guest books. So my links were everywhere. But there were some issues. I used my real email, and they emailed me back with harassment, death threats, and stuff like this because I spammed those guest books. And this was the start. But I was like, wow, SEO is great, because some of those clients went up in rankings like instantly, like from week to week they were first, and it kept growing and growing. And they asked me, okay, can you do it more? And I said, okay, but I have to change my techniques from this black hat, I learned this by heart, black hat, to a white hat or gray hat SEO. So today I will tell you about white hat techniques, an optimization that works. I tested in my clients, with my clients, and we'll start with site operator. So if you put site operator in Google, you will limit search just for a subdomain, domain, or a folder, right? So how can we use it to improve our SEO? For example, this is great, very big site, e-commerce in Poland, and those are content pieces that they are writing about a lot of stuff. For example, first one is magic of the kisses. You have to trust me on some of them because the Polish examples have to be translated. And this one is about some series about tropic heat. And for example, if you check the different one, like these articles, you will find some errors. For example, here, when I click on this, I will find an error because this is a landing page that will use Googlebot time and will use resources from Google, but doesn't put anything in this site. So you saw maybe before I changed the date. They are doing this, I know, since 2014 for many, many years. Why? Because, for example, when they put this article, again, you have to trust me on this, dla początkujących means for beginners, and the first letters, you know what it means. They gathered 100,000 keywords in top 10 results just from these massive amount of articles. Why do they do this? Because they have items and categories in this large e-commerce site. They are like eBay in Poland or like Amazon in Poland, but they are much, much bigger. They are like Monopoly in Poland. If you want to go to Poland and sell stuff, you have to try allegro.pl. And you cannot use those keywords in an item headline or category headline. You cannot use title or H1 even, heading one on your page. So you have to make those pages. For example, this Turkuć Podjadek is cool name for some bug that will destroy our crops. So they tell about this Turkuć Podjadek, and if you click on this, they sell items which will help me to fight this Turkuć guy. So again, we can check, for example, some rankings, 7 top cosmetics from America. And if you see page doing this content strategy, you don't have to like only match it. You can learn from it. Just put up your tools, for example, SEMrush, and you can check how they manage to get the rankings, how they write the articles, how they use keyword in this article. So I will tell you more about more tools later, but you have to remember there is nothing wrong with fighting or competing, to use better wording, with a large site that did this before, because now you can take some pieces of content and just make it better. Make it like longer, more keywords, just being on time because they can be old, right? So we are equal in Google. Of course, they have big domain and links and stuff like this, but you can always try to compete with them. And again, so if you will use site in this domain, and I have put minus in www, so I excluded all results with www, I found this subdomain, web1, okay? And now I will show you that on this web1, the main page is exactly the same as main domain, radiokraków.pl. And here in Samstorm, I will show you that it ranked. It was indexed and it ranked. So we have the duplicate domain on a subdomain, and Google put it in ranking. They didn't know it's a duplicate. Then it also was higher in rankings, that higher than the original domain. So can Google really know which one was first? And can Google really count which has a better domain here? I don't think so. We have some anomalies that we track all the time. And of course, you can use canonical, but in this case, you have to exclude all these errors. You have to check those subdomains. How to check them? You can use tools. In Poland, we use Senduto and Semstorm for this. Of course, if you work on a larger market, you can use SEMrush and scan for all the domains. If you use Google Search Console and you will tell Google that you own whole domain, so you will use the DNS option to tell Google that you are the owner of the domain, you will see all the subdomains in reports. So do it like this, not just URL, not just main domain, do it for whole domain, okay? So next thing, you can check for internal duplicates. Simple tool is called Siteliner. You'll easily Google it. And the better tools are crawlers. And for example, Sidebulb is great. If you are starting your quest in SEO, use a Sidebulb because they explain everything. They have great support. And if you have some errors, you can click, please explain those errors to me. And you will have these documents that will tell you what's going on with those errors and how you should address them. And 3, prevention. You can put an alert in Google Analytics. And if you are familiar with Google Analytics, you can use the dimension with the name host, and it will put the host name. So your domain or your subdomain, or maybe you bought 2 or 3 domains and you have duplicates amongst those domains, right? So Google Analytics will tell you what kind of host is opening the URLs. And you can send an alert, and if something will go wrong in time, you will get this alert to your email. So next, you can search for images because they can be duplicates too. And if you save image on your desktop and then you put it in Google, not on the mobile, but on the desktop, it will search for duplicates of your images. And our clients always say, okay, we'll sue them and we'll destroy them because they stole our precious photos. And they are small forum or small blog. And I said, no, let's contact them and said, okay, you took our photo, you can keep it, but link us. And we do link building like this. You can find some nice opportunities here. And next thing, if you put site on your domain and you will check, for example, here I check on this pharmacy doz.pl, internal search results. And of course, I have to be honest with you, I'm a good guy. When I find some things that are not quite okay with Google, I email them, and you won't find some of those examples live. Like they are some of them they are already repaired. So here I found out that they are indexing internal results, and this technique is not bad. It can be okay, but here there was a lot of duplicates. So for example, the first result is about neomycelium, and they have an item like this. And it was cannibalizing these results because they wanted to be high in rankings, but not on this side or internal results, but on the item page. So if you want to do it the right way, you should have those items should be moderated, because people will put some very nasty keywords there, and you will be ranked on those keywords with 0 results. And you have to make some rules that, for example, you put no index on the results with 0, 1, 2, maybe a search results. And you can, of course, check this or change this for your and your users' usability, right? So you have to avoid duplicates and this cannibalization. How? For example, if you have item, you index only item or category in your e-commerce or in your site. The content should be in one place. And you simply exclude this from your indexing of these internal search results. And of course, you can learn new keywords there. This is a great opportunity to learn what kind of keywords users are putting in your internal search to put those keywords in Google Ads or maybe in your SEO campaign. And the third thing, improve your internal search engine results pages. How? You have to use title. It should be unique. You have to use H1, of course, the content. If it grows, like if it's good for your SEO campaign, you can put some content there on the search page, internal search page. And of course, test Core Web Vitals and test it in analytics for your UX. Why? Because I saw that the internal search results are sometimes the slowest pages on your site, and they are very, very badly made for a user. It can be lost there. And for me, this is a great opportunity because, as you heard, I use SEO and Google Ads in my campaigns. So sometimes I test the internal SERP as a landing page for Google Ads. It can be very, very good because I can put an exact keyword and see the quality score is checking the landing page, right? And the ranking is based on some elements of this quality score. And of course, quality score is just a diagnostic tool, right? But we will see changes, simple changes. And if I have a keyword and I have an exact match landing page with this keyword in title or in H1, this worked perfectly, but I have to optimize them. Core Web Vitals are necessity here, so you have to check this and test it for yourself. And we have this Google Search Console. This is status of my site. It's going up. A lot of new indexed pages, right? This is great. I can tell my client, wow, it's going well. But it's not true. This is not great. If I check the second report, I will see that Google saw a lot of pages there, and it constantly adds new pages to the index. That's why I see a growth in the green results. But why don't I have all those pages indexed, right? So a lot of people tell this is because of crawl budget. It's not exactly true. The crawl budget is very complicated and it's for very, very large sites. The main reason you don't have indexed pages because they are rubbish to Google. They don't put anything new in Google Index. No new keywords, no new content and stuff. And you are wasting time for Google to index them. And sometimes this will leave your very important content pieces or new products and new stuff waiting to be indexed, right? So this is not a good thing. So how to compete with this? How to deal with this? For example, I saw the page ramka.pl and I checked for some frames. Ramka means a frame for a photo. And I saw that they have a lot of pages about the same thing, about the frame with wood, and the sizes are different. You can see it. And after optimization, they change it to this side. They are frames for photos. They tell about the types inside, and they optimize the title. And it works much better because they had a lot of URLs that were not putting anything important in Google. And of course, you can mix those keywords and make a lot of URLs, but you need a content to back it up. Okay, so both techniques can be good, but in this case, in a big e-commerce, the second technique was much more better. Okay, so we have sometimes core issues. For example, there is this largest engine for e-commerce in Poland. It's called shopper.pl, and they have thousands, 10,000 of e-commerces running on their engine. And they asked me to audit their engine, and we found, for example, stuff like this. You can go to a category. It's called spodnie, so it's trousers in Polish, and you have these URLs based on this category. For example, sorted Z to A to Z on page 10, and price range in accessories category, or same category spodnie, different view. And those URLs were indexed by Google. A lot of them, like thousands of them. And they could impact the speed Google will see your new items. So you have to invent some ideas how to decide what kind of filters should be indexed, or maybe indexed and canonicalized, or maybe we should never put a link to some kind of, for example, different view switch, right? So those are things you have to check on your site. The bigger your site is, the more issues you will find with searching, filters, categories, and stuff like this. For example, here, this is a big e-commerce in Poland. Of course, this is multinational brand. And here I found an outlet category. 20,000 items here. You have to click 1,000 pages to find all the items. So Google won't follow all of the sub pages. and the sorting and products here, they also changed this. So it was not only 1,000 items in those pages, it was multiplied by every parameter. So for example, they have also Google Click ID indexed here. So you can check this in your site if you have these parameter indexed, for example, UTMs or Facebook Click ID or Google Click ID, because those are errors. Those are tricky errors that Google makes. They shouldn't be indexed. They shouldn't be in your site when you search for them. And of course, you can address them and exclude them in Google Search Console manually. But if you do a big crawl of your site with, for example, crawlers like OnCrawl or Sitebulb or Screaming Frog, you will find those IDs. You will find those tracking codes. And for example, you should not use UTMs in internal linking. So this is error on our side, on internal linking side, right? And you will find a lot of parameters that shouldn't be there. They are for tracking and they should not be indexed. So skip them, lose them, migrate to UTMs if you can, or make canonical pages. So canonicalize them to show Google that this is not important in the URL, and you can exclude them in Google Search Console. Next parameter is in URL. In URL will search inside the URL string. But before we start this, you should know that for Google, this domain, onet.pl, this is one of the largest portals in Poland, it's not a single domain. Actually, Google sees as 4 unique, some kind of unique, not domains, but entities that will be used for rankings. And you have these entities in this tool. If you check this canonical domain check option, you will see those. And for example, this is a book, well-made domain here, because we have only one HTTPS with www pointing on status 200, and others are redirected to this status. And your domain should look exactly like this. You should skip like redirection chains, or you should forget about going on the different page for 4 pages, or if you have 503, for example, error, you will lose your users and you will use Google attention also, because Google told, and this is like covered in some YouTube movies by Google, that if your site have a lot of internal server errors, they will slow down the crawling process because they think that they cause too much stress on the server and the errors. But sometimes we see that there are errors inside your site, and the simple crawler, very, very slow one, will show them anyway. So we can test your site here and just choose one domain and redirect every other domains, entities, and of course their sub pages, URLs, subdomains, and stuff like this, and use the one that should work for you. And in this tool, you have to test a random URL. If I put something like this, random generated URL, it will give me 404 error. If not, this could be a mistake, because you have to show 404 error for Google for sites URLs that don't exist. Next, you can test common addresses of the homepage. We saw a duplicates on the domain.com and domain.com index.php or index.html or index.mainpage, something like this. Those internal duplicates will break your homepage a little. They can make some SERP dance, some fluctuations in your results. And if you see that your page is jumping from, for example, position 2 to 22, something like this all the time, you should search for duplicates, because they are main reason of those jumps that you see, for example, daily. And the third thing, test a random subdomain, because they should not exist, though they should redirect, this is the best way, or they should just tell Google that it's a 404 error, right? So here we have this domain, empik.pl. Empik.com is a big e-commerce in Poland, and empik.pl was the old domain. And the status codes were like this, 404. And now we will go here, page not found, okay. Not a waste, right? Because it's old domain. Now we go to majestic.com, we check here, referring domains. Now we go to the pages report. And in this pages report, we see that this mpic.pl domain has 100 referring domains, and they lost it. Like, they are not redirected. Link is just split all over the place and it's wasted. So what they have to do, just go there and redirect this site, and they will have a boost in links. Old links for old domain, they are very, very important. If you ever had a different domain or ever migrated a site from one engine to another, one set of URLs to another, you have to go here to the pages report and check this. But there are some traps here if you use site and in URL parameters. See this for yourself. Here I have 3 results, here 200, here 81 and 300. They are slightly different. Use a lot of them to search, because if you put these combinations like I did, you will find more URLs that should be redirected, right? And here we have a site, money.pl, and I use -in URL HTTPS. So I excluded everything on their site they are using without SSL, so without HTTPS. And I found strange domains. I went to Samstorm and I saw this domain, MSP, and I saw, whoa, this domain is so old. It's not even mobile friendly. And I found this. It says that Flash Player is not working anymore in Chromium. So it's really, really old stuff. They should migrate it to a new site or just redirect it. If they redirect it, it's a waste of content, right? Because some of this content could be a nice one, but they should move it. People are paying all the time for new content. And what I'm saying, like, it's okay, but make some of the budget, like 20% or 30% of this budget, to ask your copywriters to go through your old content and recycle it. Like, simply check if it's okay. And if you cannot recycle it, it's a great ideas. For example, here we have ideas for topics that we can write from the beginning, but they are working all the time for a few years back, right? So we can use it. And here I found in another e-commerce, it's already repaired, but I found that the simple page they made for printing purposes were indexed, and a lot of them were indexed, more than 1,000. Just checking the site and in URL by this drukui means print. And of course, I have to click a lot on this page to find this, and I wasted a lot of time to do it. But what they did with this to repair this, it's extraordinary. For example, they set rel canonical, and there are no text links anymore. They migrated it to some JavaScript, and it cannot be indexed by Google now. They use some method that cannot be indexed by Google. Google cannot follow this. So they fixed the problem on 2 levels, just to make sure that it won't go back to them. Because if Google sees something and have these pages indexed, it will go there again and again and again, and it will waste resources even when you delete the links, internal links, right? So you have to delete those pages, redirect them, or set canonical. Simply make sure that there is no way Google will use this error again to compromise your page. And of course, web developers know better, right? So if someone deletes content and put 404 there, it's probably a big mistake. If you delete content to be deleted from Google, you have to use 410 status. It's mean gone. It will tell Googlebot to not go there again as often as Googlebot visits your 404 pages. And of course, if you had links to this site, don't put 404 or 410 status. You have to put redirect 301. Don't use temporarily redirects 302, because we know that they historically didn't put all the link juice through like 301 redirects. So how can you do it? You go to Majestic or some kind of tool like this. Majestic analyze the links. You go to report, which is called pages, and then you export all the data from here, and you simply use, for example, HTTP status IO tool I showed you, or you use a crawler to go to all these pages with links, with referring domains, and you check them, and you simply put them like redirections or delete content or gone status or something like this. You have to check this because the idea of migrating page will change your URLs at some point. And if you forgot about this or your predecessor forgot about this, you will find links here. And this is free links for you, just simple redirect. And we saw great improvement in rankings when we repaired old pages like this. And if you are expert or you want to be SEO expert, you can go deeper, like in Inception. We need to go deeper here. Get rid of every status that is not working for you in the internal linking by analyzing log files. So you can download them from your server and put in OnCrawl or Botify or other tools, and they will tell you about the issues, and you can address those issues like in real time. It's better than Google Analytics. Why? Because it also covers the Google bot activity on other search engine bots activity, and they don't use analytics. They don't show in analytics. So you'll find a lot of more pages that should not exist at all. So you have to delete internal links and clean this mess up. What can you do to improve indexing and the scroll budget issues? For example, you can add new index. So when I worked in one of the largest portals in Poland with my agency, we set up an SEO team there, and we managed the SEO for a whole portal. We made some indexes like this. For example, putting this newsroom, I'm very sorry, in this newsroom and the movies from A to Z. We put some indexes. Why? Because it's easier now for a Google bot to see all the movies, to see all the news, okay? And it's easier and takes less clicks. It's not so far from a homepage. So good crawler like Sitebulb will show you this. And this is in Audit Overview, this is a crawled URLs by depth. And you will see that, okay, this is my main site. Google can click here, okay, 6 clicks, that's not good. And here I have orphan pages or more than 10 clicks. I have to check them and like improve them with internal linking. And you can constantly check for those errors in Google Search Console. This is the best place to go because you can see what Google see. But I told you about prevention, right? If you see something in Google Search Console, Google knows about this, and maybe your site is impacted by this. I mean, it's not something like they will punish you, but the crawling speed, the new item indexation will go a little slower. But if you use prevention, you scan this with crawlers, you analyze them before, you can like be better before Google see those errors. And the last thing, file type. It's not helping SEO a lot. You can search for certain documents like this. For example, when I put it in Polish Google with audit, SEO audit and file type PDF, I found a lot of audits made by my competition, and I learn a lot. that I should ask for more money for my audits, because some of them were very, very basic. And you have to check, you can check this, like you can search for PDFs, they're indexed and you are not breaking any laws. They are public because Google saw them. And I will have to tell you a story about those PDFs to make you remember this better. They're source of big messes sometimes. For example, PDFs are a reason of duplicate content. And the duplicate content will be like if you have PDF with description of the same items, right? So remember to exclude them. Do not index them. They don't have analytics inside, so you won't know and notice them in Google Analytics. And the third thing, this is the most often way to leak the data and those secret documents like I told you about SEO audits. So search your site with the file type PDF and search if you have this issue or not. And of course, we have more operators in Google, and these operator related doesn't work. If you want to search for your real competitor, you use different tools, Sandstorm, Senuto, SEMrush, or data-driven SEO in Surfer or Contai. If you don't know these two tools, you should definitely check them out because they can scan your competitors, scan top 10 results, and tell you how you should write a new content. based on the data. Which keywords were used, how often, where in the structure of documents, how many keywords inside, and stuff like this. And the snippets. You can check SEMrush for the snippets. I'm very sorry. I hope it's not me getting arrested, but you can check for the snippets here in the SEMrush. And if you search for featured snippets here, you will see the keywords that you can use to fight for these snippets, for this zero position or maybe top stories. And people also ask, you will find the keywords that are best for content marketing strategies. And the search intent. If you want to know what you should write about in your content marketing, you put simple keyword in Google. Google knows better. You will see that they have these related searches, questions, stuff like this. Surfer and Conte, they import this for you to one great place. And you have to check this because I see a lot of people writing about some keywords, and I know people won't use those keywords to search for your services or products. They will use different keywords. Why didn't you check in Google? If you put your keywords in Google, its results are about very different things. So you have to check it for yourself. And that's it. That's all I wanted to tell you about how to use Google for your better technical SEO. I hope there are some inspiration for you and you have some ideas to implement. And I have one last thing for you, some cautionary tale. But before this, I will tell you, Google is cool stuff. You can type a lot of stuff there. For example, back in time, I searched for webcams, which were not hide before because no password was set, and we found a webcam in an office. Then we found a printer, a network printer in this office, and we print some stuff on this printer and saw reaction through the webcam. Very, very long time ago. So I have the police here. It's not for me for this case. And if you put Florida man and your birthday, it's a Florida man birthday challenge, you will see what these terrible people in Florida made. And it's, for example, mine was like very, very terrible man. You can put your birthday here and Florida man and do the challenge to make some fun. And the cautionary tale. One time I got matched with this girl on Tinder, and she got this photo just like this with her number and the marathon name. So I used Google, put the marathon name, search for it, and I found her number, and leaked PDF file was indexed with all numbers and hundreds of people names. And I, of course, told her that you should delete this photo because I can easily check your name. And she, of course, said thank you to me. I'm a good person, right? And she unmatched me. So don't start conversation like this. But to be honest, you have to check if Google has some important information about you. You can check your home address, phone number, Wi-Fi password can be indexed. For example, we have this running joke in Google Office in Poland. They have the same password for a long time. So we put this password in Google and we search for presentation that were put on slideshow, for example. They were confidential, but we could search for them using Wi-Fi password that were always put in the presentation. Second thing, use HTTP access to block pages under development. You have to block them anyway. Don't index them, block them. Like before setting them up, set a password. And check your site constantly in Google Search Console, for example, because one time we have this issue, there was 400 emails, internal emails indexed, and we help the client to de-index them, to delete them from Google. So this is an issue, and your Google reviews are public. So under this address, I can search for your name and see what kind of stuff you visited, where your kids are going to school, because some people say, oh, this school is great, and this is not good. You can change this, like make them not public, or simply don't use them, but you can check if you're vulnerable to this. Thank you very much for listening. Dziękuję. And I'm open for your questions. I hope I didn't used all my time.
No, we still got 5 minutes. Thank you so much, Krzysztof,
Great.
for a very, very inspiring talk. And I think you've what I love about this conference is that, you know, some people talk about things at a very kind of high level, more of the sort of, you know, 30,000 foot strategy. But what you've done in this talk is go through like discrete, exact examples of tools, techniques that you can use. And actually, I'm just looking at the Q&A. So we've got a first question that's just come in from Phil Bolton, who, I hope I got that spelling right. And he said, is there a way to stop Google from crawling URLs generated by website search categories / filters?
Yeah,
It's a good question.
the easiest way is to put no index tag there. Of course, we do this like no index tag, and then we use robots.txt, the special file, and we block Google from accessing the certain URLs or folders, stuff like this. And of course, you can delete the physical link there. Use, for example, JavaScript in some way that will not be indexed by Google at all.
Gotcha. And I think definitely your talk is one that I will want to rewatch as well, because there's so much information packed in here, like such high quality information that yeah, I think we're all very, very lucky to have, gotten such a masterclass in all of this. And if you were advising someone who, say, just starting out on their SEO journey, how much of the things that you've said today would you say that apply to a beginner, or is there specific areas that you would say, look, if you're just getting started, focus on, A, B, and C? Is there any
Yeah.
advice you would give to people starting out? Should they look at all of this now, or do you think it's something that they need to come back when they've done some fundamentals?
When they work with the large sites, they should
Yeah.
come back to this, of course. But for a small sites and for a beginner level, I should focus on different things, like focus on how to, for example, set up my WordPress grid and the SEO plugins for the WordPress. And of course, there is one tool that you should use, Google Search Console, all the time, no matter
Mm.
what is your level. I mean, if we do Google Ads for a client, we check Google Search Console because it will tell us about the problems we will have, like it will impact our Google Ads, for example. And the second tool you should use is a crawler, simple crawler. And you can use Sitebulb, as I told you. It's free for 14 days, and you can scan your site, learn, and if you like it, you can buy it. And the second one is Screaming Frog. It's a little more advanced, but you will find the documentation also. And you can use it without time limit, but it's limited to very, very small sites, less than 500 resources. So you can learn how to do SEO based on your site, on exact data. It's not like it's super pricey. You can use those tools later for your benefit, but you should definitely check them out at the beginning.
Fantastic. And lastly, before we close off for everyone to go off to lunch, where can people find out more information on these topics? Are you doing any other conferences or boot camps soon? Is there anything that if someone has seen this and said, "Wow, I just didn't realize how much stuff there was here to get sunk into"? Where would you recommend they go next?
Yeah, I'm very sorry. I do very little stuff in English right now. We have this bar camp coming soon in Poland, but it's all in Polish. So you should definitely check out SEM KRK, so it's semkrk.pl. But right now, I think the great place to go, and we can meet there, is Brighton SEO. I will speak there about Google Ads actually in the Fringe event just before Brighton SEO, and this is the main direction for even low level and very advanced SEO specialists to go. This is a cool place. And there are a lot of knowledge. For example, about this content recycling, there is a great podcast. You will find it on most podcast platforms, for example, Spotify. You just put content recycling or content 10x, something like this, and you will find a lot of podcasts about this and read blogs, but always have this issue in mind.
Yes.
Do they put the knowledge like they tested it, or just they repeat if they heard something? So always have this like, I don't believe you, I will check another source to make this or make some tests, because back in time we saw a lot of stuff from Google that wasn't exactly the truth. They wanted to work that way. They wanted us webmasters and SEO to do it like this, but we know that better. We tested it, and there are a lot of messy blog posts. You have to be careful, but there are a lot of great researchers. And if you are, for example, my blog that I read a lot with the SEM, more SEM stuff, it's, for example, WordStream. They're Google partners. They do a lot of tests. The WordStream is great, and you can check how they do it, how they are doing content recycling. They're great in this, so definitely check their blog.
Brilliant. Well, thanks so much for your talk, Krzysztof. That was absolutely amazing. I can't wait to get the video so that I can then send that across to our SEO team at the Brains as well. So everyone, thanks so much for your attendance and for your great questions. And we will see you after the lunch break. But for now, we're going to sign off. And yeah, everyone, look up Krzysztof after this. And if you're Polish, you know where to go. And if you're English and you're in the UK, then again, you also know where to go. All right. Thanks a lot,
Thank you very
everyone.
much.
Take
Thanks.
care, Krzysztof. Bye.
Bye.
There's a 10-second countdown to ending the stream anyway. Yeah. Okay. I think that's just